Welcome back to We Move Through Stormy Weather, a Phish podcast where we compare and contrast songs and the evolution of their jamming styles throughout the band's career. My name is Ryan Storm, and today I am joined by Karina Rykman. Karina is a bassist extraordinaire who has been a member of Marco Benevento's band since 2016, touring worldwide with him. Aside from her tours with Marco, Karina has performed on The Today Show and America's Got Talent, been a part of the Everyone Orchestra alongside members of the Disco Biscuits and more, and of course, her infamous soundcheck jam with Phish themselves on 12/30/18. Karina has also formed her own band, releasing 2 singles in each of 2019 and 2020, respectively. Karina, say hi.
Yo, Ryan, what is up? Thank you so much. It's a great intro. That was good.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
It's awesome to be here, dude. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much for being on today. I'm a huge fan, and I'm so excited to get to talk some Phish with you.
Dude, it's always a thrill to talk Phish, and I've listened to the podcast. You go deep. You go deeper than I go. I'm like, holy shit. He is on it. He's so on it. Oh, can I curse on this?
Yes, you can. That's okay.
Oh, fantastic. Great.
All good. So how did you get into the band? I know you have quite a story.
In a very unorthodox way, I would say. I went to middle school essentially with Trey's older daughter Eliza, and had no idea that her dad was in a band. You know, it was kind of those years where Phish was disbanded and it wasn't, a thing, and I just didn't know about it. But then, here in Manhattan, like everybody, people start to know each other, and like my very dear friend's younger sister was best friends with Bella Anastasia, the younger of the 2 daughters. And then my friend Isaac was friends with Bella as well. Like it was just kind of like a school children thing, like being friends with the kids and whatnot. And then I got invited to see my first show, which was the last night of the Jones Beach run in 2009.
So had you heard any Phish before that show?
Only like just because they were like, hey, like, come to the show. I was like, oh, I should bone up on this. And I listened to Studio Chalk Dust and Studio Bouncing Around the Room.
Oh, so you had no idea what was coming?
No idea. 0 idea. I was like, yeah, that'll be fun. Like it didn't grab me from those 2 studio recordings at all, like up front. I'll be honest. I was like, what? Like, cool. But then that whole show was just a whirlwind in terms of like, we entered the venue, like it was crazy. I rode the tour bus home, like the tour bus dropped me off that night at my parents' apartment. That was just crazy. And, but it wasn't until like, I believe the next week when I was taken to Bonnaroo 09 with them that it was like, I had a musical and everything awakening where I was just like, I will commit the rest of my life to being around this energy, whatever it is, like, and at that point I was like, I'll be a janitor, I'll be a promoter, I'll be a ticket taker, I played music at the time, but it wasn't, I wasn't clear cut in terms of like that being the thing that I could make happen for myself. You know what I mean? But then lo and behold, many years later, 100+ shows, et cetera, I, the deal. It just, it grabbed me in ways that I could never fully explain.
No kidding. So you were how old at your first show?
I was 15 at my first show.
Aha, I beat you by 4 years.
Oh, look at you. Look at you.
Listen, I will say that being taken to my first show by my dad is definitely less glamorous than being taken to my first show backstage with Trey's kids.
No, but I'm sure your dad was throwing down. So was your dad's a big fan?
Yes. Yeah. He's been seeing them since the early 90s.
That's amazing. And did he have a Grateful Dead like pre-history, or was it just Phish from the jump? Okay.
He saw the Dead starting in 87, I believe.
Wow. Very heady. Very heady.
Very. Yes. We are pretty heady. And so let's talk about what song you picked. And we went a little bit of a different route than we do normally. We're doing Carini today, which I kept thinking about, like Karina, just little rhyme thing.
Telling you, totally.
But instead of picking our favorite jammy Carinis, the two of us picked a version each that we have seen live, that we have a special connection to. So Karina, why don't you talk a little bit about the version that you picked?
Certainly. And I think, there are real merits to doing that, Ryan. You and I, we're on the younger end of the spectrum, you more than I, but let's, I'll let myself in with you. It's important, and it's like, being kind of, coming of age around this band, if you will, and it being such a huge part of our lives. Like,
yeah,
it's so cool to have these personal experiences and stories and whatnot. And it's super cool. And from the moment I heard this Carini, I've never been the same. So I was 16. And by this point, if you track the chronology here from that, Jones Beach, my first show a year before, through now, I'm now a sick freak for the band. Like, all I want to do is listen to them. I'm playing the music. I'm, playing, just learning all the tray parts, all the mic parts, doing everything I can. I'm obsessed. So me and my 3 dear friends, we go to the Borgata. We are sharing a hotel room. We are 16 years old, and we are hyped to see our favorite band in Atlantic City. And it's like,
that's awesome.
Just the best. And I come from a rock and roll place, if you know what I mean. And even heavier. Like, I was at that time really into metal, really into punk, like really into like kind of harder tinged music, if you will. So Carini, in terms of just the real kick it gets right off the bat, and I had never heard it before this show. I had no conception of what a Carini could be. No idea. So I remember being there and just hearing those opening notes and being just completely blasted to bits.
Well, this is a heavy opening of Carini. That's my first note here. And Trey's tone in fall 2010 is just dirty.
Totally agree. That's my first note as well. And it's funny to be like, you picture yourself as the 16-year-old kid that doesn't know what's happening at that moment, and just being like, oh, no wonder I loved this so much. Like, what is even happening here? It's so good. And a lot happens in it, though it's not a long Carini, but there are a lot of movements within it, I would definitely say.
I agree.
And then later on in the set, they played Karina, and then that was, my friend Isaac, who's still my best friend, my roommate, like whatever, we're at this show together, and he is the Phish nerd between the two of us, who like really knows what's happening. So throughout all these shows, I'm with Isaac, and I'm like, Isaac, what's happening? What is this? What's going on? He's like, this is Carini. It's your new favorite song. You're going to love it. The best version is blah, 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 like whatever. And so later, I mean, this is fun, but like at set break, either that night or the night after or whatever, or maybe it was before the show or whatever, but we were in catering, me and my friends. And it was like Carini, Karina. And I said to Trey, I was like, you played Carini and Karina, like for me, right? He's like, that's right. And I was like, oh, cool. What? And he kind of like, I thought he was serious. I'll never know if he was serious or not. But anyway.
I'm just so blown away and so jealous of the way that you're just casually mentioning, oh yeah, just I said to Trey, you played this song for me.
Oh, dude, I mean, I'm telling you, I was shocked too. The whole thing was just like a whirlwind of being this kid running around in this way, like in Atlantic City at 16, like with my best friends.
So was this your first show that you saw without Bella and Eliza?
Well, I think they were probably there. You see, like in those earlier days, they were less into it in the way, like, a lot of the time, like they would stay in the tour bus and like watch like X-Men or Doctor Who, and then I would be like, guys, I'm gonna go see the show.
Wait,
and
really?
Like, yeah, oh yeah, but now they would laugh because, and especially Bella now is like super, super deep and entrenched in the scene and the world, and has, a million Phish friends, and she's always on the floor and like takes it really seriously, but back in the day, it was kind of like, I got really into it all of a sudden. They were like, oh, wow, she's really into this.
Sometimes it just
So
happens that way.
totally, but me and my core little, it was like a 4-pack. It was me, Isaac, Matt, Josh, and we would be at all the shows, and just, and Isaac was very good friends with Bella as well. It was like very much a all in the family situation, So
That's really
this
cool.
Carini, yeah, it was super, and still is same crew. We just we're deep. We love it. It's the best thing. And
It is.
yeah, man. So what about you? What do you got on your Carini?
So the Carini I picked from my favorite Phish tour of all time, and my favorite show that I have seen live, which is October 28th, 2018. That was a really special weekend for me because it was my first semester of university, and I had a midterm on the Friday at like 7 p.m. So my parents and
Oh,
I couldn't make the Friday show, but as soon as my midterm ended, my dad drove to university, where I go to universities, but now we're outside of Toronto. So he came and picked me up. We drove home. We were listening to the show while we were driving, and I just kept getting like more and more upset because they were just checking off all the songs that I haven't seen that I want to see. Like Punch You in the Eye, gone.
oh,
Reba, gone. Mercury, gone. And
oh.
I was like, no. But so we get home. They open the second set with a 20-minute tweezer. I'm like, okay, I need to go to bed. We have an early flight in the morning. So we fly to Chicago in the morning. When I listen to the rest of the previous night's show, we see the 27th, we see the 28th, and then we slept for like maybe 4 hours after the 28th show ended. Caught a 6 a.m. flight back to Toronto, and I was at my afternoon 2:30 p.m. class. So it was a
Yes,
crazy
that is how
weekend.
you do it.
Yeah. And so
Oh,
and
so amazing.
my
That is
parents, I
so
had been
good.
like begging them to take me to these shows for like months before, because they took my little brother to the Albany shows a couple of weeks before, but I couldn't go because they were a Tuesday, Wednesday, and I had class and stuff. Um and so just the Sunday before, I just get a text from my dad, and it's just a screenshot of our flights. And
Oh my God,
it
that
was
is
incredible.
so good.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
they revealed my first show tickets to me in a similar way, where it was probably a week and a half before. My first show was 6/24/12, so it was Father's Day, and my mom had told me that she got my dad a ticket to that show for for Father's Day, and he was gonna go. And I was like, great, like he's gonna go see Phish. We put the ticket in an envelope the night before, whatever, and then at breakfast the next morning, we opened the envelope and there were 2 tickets in there. And I'm like,
Oh,
why are there 2 tickets? And my mom's like, you're going with him. And I started freaking out. Like 11 and a half years old.
that's
Like I had been into the band for like just short of a year at this point, listening to them like nonstop. And so that was just really cool. But so this Carini, I think going in is the second set opener from October 28th. And it was kind of, I think everyone could feel that was going to be the second set opener. They hadn't played it in the 3-night run yet, and just it was ripe for Carini, and I that was my prediction. And you can't it doesn't really come through on the recording as much, but the energy in the room during this jam was so cool. There was like a huge like glow stick snake that made its way around the entire arena during this jam,
wow.
which was really cool. And we had great seats this night. We were front row of the 200s, about midway back, so we had a fantastic view of the stage. And it was just
So
great.
sick. Wow.
Great, like kind of a similar to yours, kind of like a little bit heavier, more of a like mellow, darker groove, and then goes into the only really jammed out no quarter ever, which is really cool.
Very special. That's what you
Yes.
like to see.
And in this one, especially as a keyboard player, there's some fantastic Page in this jam. He's all over the Rhodes and the Wurlitzer, which are my favorites.
Totally. You and me both. Absolutely. I made some very nerdy notes up and down both of these guys with timestamps and all that stuff. And I wrote at 5:55, no less, sparse atmospheric Trey bringing a special sauce. Like there was really something
Yes.
going on kind of at that point that then kind of morphs into a Page-led moment, you know, where like Trey's laying out, except for like some kind of feelers and like staccato lines going on.
Yes, very
And I
much
really
Page.
find, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of Page going on.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of Page. Oh, love it. Or forget it, let's go. So good. And then that evolves kind of, I don't know, I mean, it can happen in lots of different songs, but I find that in Carini's, oftentimes, like I like the way they kind of can morph from who is leading to who isn't, and like who's kind of like the focal point, and then people, like the way that the rest of the guys kind of follow and play around that person. I find yours is a really good example of that, because Trey starts out leading the jam for sure. Like Trey definitely comes in. It's more patient than my jam for sure. Like my jam just kind of rips from the beginning, but Trey comes in there.
Well, and that's really also a reflection on the, you know, the difference in the band, you know, in fall 2010 versus fall 2018. And these jams are actually almost 8 years apart to the day. But you know, in fall 2010, it was still a lot more Trey ripping, as opposed to fall 2018, where there's a lot more democratic jamming and a lot more, you know, Page is leading a lot more jams and Mike is leading a lot more jams. And that's not a knock on fall 2010. I love fall 2010. It's just how the band has evolved over the past decade.
Totally, which we're so lucky to be privy to and get to see the development and hear the development. And especially, I mean, that's obviously right pre-Kasvot Vox, like right there, right? So what a fun time to be Phish, you know? Like you're kind of having, you know, we've read those interviews where Trey says, like, you know, without Kasvot Vox, like that was just like a new sort of almost creative renaissance for the band that like spurred a whole new era of them taking risks and doing like some of the craziest shit we've ever, I don't know, at least in our/my lifetime of seeing the band, like that was in my eyes like a very pivotal moment to be those guys. So
definitely.
Right. And then like, there you go. You're in your show's Illinois, correct? Like I was like really pre-Kasvot. They're doing really cool stuff. And that show is amazing. 10, 28, 18. Like I listened to the whole, it's really fantastic. And this is
a show that opens with a 15-minute type 2, everything's right, with like a massive peak. Like, you know, it's hard to not have a fantastic show after that.
Amen. No, they came to get it. They came to represent it. So awesome. It's really, really cool. And you know, there's, again, like you say, nothing against, you know, 8 years ago, that if you really like the show to me that stands out in my mind is one after the one that I mentioned, 12/30/10, which
The
was the night
Zeppelin
with
show.
all the Zeppelin. Like, it was a special thing. Oh, and here's a good anecdote. I will tell you this, right?
Yes.
So me and my 4 friends, right? Three. We're 4 as a pack. Anyway, we're obsessed with figuring out the musical costume. Like, what's it going to be? What are they going to play?
As everyone is always.
Totally. And like, we're like, it's even more heightened because we're just a bunch of kids that's like, has relatively recently fallen in love with this band and just like, we'll do anything. So as I said, special situation. We're definitely running around backstage. We're definitely getting to the venue early and eating at catering. So like, you're hearing stuff, you're around soundcheck, et cetera, et cetera. So throughout that weekend, we're hearing Zeppelin teases like in soundcheck basically, and we're just like, oh shit, it's gonna be Zeppelin too. It's gonna be Zeppelin
See,
too.
and you got, and that's the drawback of being young. Now if they start teasing something on the fall tour or in soundchecks, that's like immediate write-off.
Totally.
Like, no way they're doing that.
No way. Exactly. But we were just like, oh, it's got to be that, and then every day we'd kind of come back and just be like, oh my God, they're playing Whole Lotta Love. Holy shit, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And then we, at one point, we're in catering with Trey's wife, Sue, who's just the best and, a dear friend and amazing human. And we're just like, Sue, it's going to be Zeppelin, right? She's like, ooh, I can't tell you what it's going to be, but no, it's not going to be Zeppelin. We're just like, what are you even talking about? Like, what are you talking about? She's like, honestly, I don't even know if you guys like would know what they're going to do. And we're like, what do you mean? Like, what is this all? Our minds are blown, et cetera, et cetera. And she said to listen to the Wolfman's brother from whatever night that was, like pre Halloween, for a clue. And I remember going back to the hotel room.
What was the clue?
I have no idea. I still don't know. But if you go and listen to it, maybe
the 29th or the 30th that Wolfman's was.
That's a great question. I don't know. I don't know.
Let me look. How did you guys react to all of those Zeppelin teases in the second set of the 30th?
We lost our minds. No, I'm not kidding. Like, that was probably like, if I were to tell you like the single most memorable date in my brain to this day, other than when I sound checked with them, because that's special, but like 10/30/10 really rings kind of supreme in my, like, we lost it but of course we were like, wow, okay, it's really not Zeppelin. She was not lying. Like, what is it going to be? Obviously. But like, walking out of Boardwalk Hall that night, everybody was like high in a way I've never seen humans before. Like, people were shrieking. Just incomparable to anything, really. Like, and that's saying a lot because I've seen a lot of shows since then and, have had extremely, jubilative, blissful, insane experiences. But that Zeppelin show was really reigned supreme. And I loved Waiting for Columbus, don't get me wrong, but that Zeppelin show was 1,000% my favorite night of the run, I would say.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, my favorite part of that whole thing is after they finish the whole Tweezer Zeppelin nonsense, Trey's just like, happy Halloween, we'll see you next year.
Exactly.
Like, it's just, they're like, like, we fooled you again.
Every time. Yeah. And didn't they play ha ha ha, or am I tripping? I don't know. Like, there was
I think they might have. That sounds right.
Something like that. It was so funny. And then, of course, like, we're listening to this Wolfman's brother in the hotel room trying to decode what Sue Anastasio is telling us, and we just have no idea what she's talking about. And we're just like, she's fucking with us, right? Like, she's definitely
probably.
And then she was right. I'll be 1,000% honest. I was not familiar with Little Feat beyond like Dixie Chicken I had heard, but definitely didn't know the full record and was extremely pleasantly surprised. And then in the years to come, turned into a big old Little Feat fan. So it all works out. It definitely all works out.
Amazing.
But special time, definitely a special time. But the Carini, that was also, I mean, like, just to hear, I don't know, because also Carini has a very Zeppelin-esque, if you ask me, feel to it. That riff is just like drenched in Jimmy Page sauce. So I was like, right? Like it could easily be a B-side or like some unreleased thing that I've never heard. And I was like,
I mean,
whoa,
not with these lyrics, but
no,
you know.
just the riff,
The riff. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Of course. Oh man. And then I went back in time after I heard that first Carini and was like, oh, sometimes they say, what is it? Naked dude. Sometimes they say piece of ass, whatever it is. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just like get obsessed with the little variations and why and when. And, sometimes they really do bizarre things with it. And I was just like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah, it's cool. It's always those certain jams that have like a sentimental value, or just like, like a special place in your heart always.
Totally.
Whenever you hear them, it's just like the certain things that you associate. It's great. Like a lot of the Super Bowl festival, which is what I was listening to in like grade 5 and 6. That
oh man.
like hearing all that stuff is just, it triggers like emotional memories and stuff.
Certainly.
So you mentioned it earlier, and I mentioned it earlier, and I'm pretty sure everyone who's listening will know about this, but I want to hear about the soundcheck jam.
Oh, totally.
Which I remember the first time I saw the video of that, just like being so jealous of you, and just, it's incredible. So how did that happen?
Ryan. I mean, holy shit. No, it is like, it really, I definitely get asked about it a lot, and for good reason, because that really was the single most surreal thing that's ever happened to me. And there's, I'm very blessed to say there have been many surreal moments in my life, but that one kind of takes the cake, So, yeah, that was, like I said, it's kind of a surreal thing with Phish, with me in general, because obviously, I started seeing the band in this very weird way, in terms of just being like a family friend that got invited, and then fell in love with the music, and decided then and there that, whatever I did in this lifetime would be something involving that feeling, whatever it would be. And then, cut to my last semester of NYU, and I'm 22. It's 2016. I'm about to graduate. I'm like preparing my thesis defense and all this stuff, and I get a call to be Marco Benevento's bass player, right? And that's like a huge honor, and it's even more so because it's Dave Drywitz, who was the bass player in Ween and J-Rad and Marco's band at that time. But at kind of the 4 years leading up to that moment, Ween was disbanded. And that's why Dave was touring really heavily in Marco's band and playing bass in his band, just, slugging it out Road Dogg style. But Ween was coming back, and Dave, being, 50 years old, couldn't be in J-Rad and Ween and Marco's band, who tours probably more than both of them. But, so he was a very, a guru to me, and like a mentor and a dear friend and everything. And he said to Marco, he was like, Karina's the only one who can fill in for you when I'm on Ween tour. And he was like, I mean, for me, Karina's the only one who can fill in for me. You know what I'm trying to say? Anyway, and Marco was like, hell yeah, I love Karina. Let's do it. And then there I was, like, holy shit, huge, like that was a huge deal and opportunity to me, etc. Learned 40 Marco Benevento songs. And,
awesome.
That first little while I was just filling in, but then I became, like, Dave passed the torch to me, so to speak, kind of in September of 2016. And
that's
then he
so
was
cool.
Like, you're full time. Yeah.
Well, I've listened to and watched some of the stuff you do with Marco live, and like some of your like insane like fuzz bass solos and stuff like that. And it's just so cool, because like I can tell the three of you are always just having so much fun on stage.
Ridiculous.
And it's so evident, and it's cool because I think you approach the bass in a very, very cool way. Like the fuzz bass solo just kind of sticks out to me as something that like I don't see very often, I don't think. And it's just totally cool. Yeah. And I think that, like, sometimes play with a pick, sometimes you don't. It's cool to listen to the different sounds that you get out of there, and how it meshes really well with Marco, and blanking on the drummer's name.
Oh, it's all good. There are many of them. It used to be Andy, and now it's Dave Butler. And
Got it.
yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate that. No, it's and I swear this is relating to the Phish soundcheck. I swear it's relating to the Phish soundcheck.
Oh,
But
it's
just
fine.
like
Tangents are so allowed.
Oh, great. Great. Perfect. Well, I'm just setting the stage for your listeners here.
Good.
Where so like I've suddenly joined Marco Benevento's band, somebody I'm a huge fan of, and somebody who alongside all this Phish listening, among other things, like I've been listening to Marco. I've been listening to the duo. I've been listening to and I know about like the Grab tour and, all the playing he's done with Mike and with Trey and et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, so here I am, fresh out of college, and, suddenly it just kind of revealed itself that this was going to be the direction my life takes, which was incredible. And you couldn't have scripted it like that. I thought I would be, because I was working for a promoter at the time, and I, throughout college, like had a salary and like was pretty well set in that respect. And I just kind of figured like, okay, like, I'll be a chick who works in the music business. That's awesome too. I would work for, Live Nation or Ticketmaster or Bowery Presents or whatever. Anyway, didn't happen because of Marco and Dave's intervention, which I'm so thrilled about. But through all that stuff is when I really met Mike, like as like a colleague or a peer or like whatever. So I had this funny moment of like, Mike would come to our gigs. Like Mike and Fishman came to a Marco / Eric Krasno band show in Atlanta in fall 2016.
Oh,
and
and Phish was there.
Yes, exactly. The night before, I want to say. And they came to our show, and
did you get to see those Phish shows?
No, I was on tour. But we were just passing through, and they came on their night off. And Colonel Bruce was there too. It was like I have a crazy photo of me, Mike Fishman, and Colonel Bruce outside Terminal West in Atlanta where we played. And, Mike and I really became pals, in these years basically. And like, it was funny on the level of like, okay, I went from being like Trey's kid's friend to like kind of a peer or something. I don't know what you call it, but like of his and Mike's and whatnot. And yeah, so Mike was always, we'd run into each other at festivals and obviously Phish gigs because whatever and blah blah blah. And he would come to Marco shows, and when we'd play Vermont, he'd come or wherever. So now, like, I'm friendly with Mike, and he was always so like, I don't want to use the word charitable, but like he would just always just be like, you got to come check out my new rig. I have this new rig. It's insane. You're going to love it. I can't wait to show you. And I'm like, yeah, dude.
I'm in. Yeah.
Like, you don't have to ask me twice. Like, just whatever. And that's a huge honor to check out what the hell he's got going on up there. Like, obviously.
I mean, he's got so much going on up there.
Of course. So, my answer always was, hell yeah, you just name the time and place.
Yeah.
And what it ended up being after, actually, there was a possibility of it going down at Albany in 2018, but it did not. which was good because, between you, me, and the wall, if I'm going to be a beggar or a chooser, not a beggar here first.
You'd rather do it at MSG.
It's kind of cool to do it at MSG. I'm not going to lie to you. So cut to that run, and we had been texting and talking about it, like just loosely over the past couple months of that year and whatnot. But that run was crazy for me. My band played a crazy sold out Phish after show the night before. And like,
after the 29th.
Oh, yes, because the soundcheck was the 30th, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, thank God you know.
My job to know these things.
I know too, I promise. But yes, on the 29th, we played a crazy, awesome, sold-out, New Blue after Phish show. That was my first time doing something like that. Like, I wasn't like in the after show game back then, but now I am. Anyway, it's great. It was super great. So we played until, I don't know, 3. I wasn't home till like 4, etc. You can see where this is going. So my alarm was set on the 30th for 3 p.m.
Right.
And Mike texted me at 2 p.m. saying, can you be at the Garden at 3? And thank God I rolled over and checked my phone at 2:17 p.m. to see that text message, because otherwise I would have totally slept up to the alarm and missed it.
Have you ever gotten ready faster in your life?
Never. And let me set the scene for you, Ryan. The my apartment, which I told you I share with Isaac, my dear long-standing Phish buddy, and also friend of the Anastasios and whatnot. So like, when Phish comes to town for MSG, or to MSG, shall I say, we like, it's like Guantanamo Bay up in here. Like, we have a million bodies everywhere staying with us. So there's just like 3 couches. They're all occupied by people. Room with a blow-up mattress. Like, it's like we host a lot of people because they're all, we live very close to the Garden, might I add. That helps with the story. We live like a good 12 blocks away.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so we're killing it with all like the hosting. Everybody came to my after show. Everybody's sleeping, whatever. But literally, I have never gotten up faster. But the one thing going through my head, because I was like, shit, I have to shower. I have to drink a shot of espresso. I got to be ready. Like, this is crazy. And at this point, I have no sense that I would jam with the whole band. Of course not. I literally just think I'm going to play some pedals with Mike on stage at the world's most famous arena.
Yeah.
So I'm bugging out. I'm bugging out regardless. No, I've never gotten ready faster. It's a miracle I didn't have a heart attack, really. And I like ran into the shower, like, in and out, good to go. I'm like, shit, my hair's going to be wet for this. That's so ratchet. What am I going to do? I don't have time to blow dry it. Of course not. And then I just like creep into the kitchen where it's like, it's like kitchen / living room basically. And like, my 3 friends are still asleep on the couch and I'm all dressed up and they're like, where are you going? And I'm like pouring myself a shot of espresso. I'm like, I'll tell you later. I'll be right back.
Yeah,
like,
you can't
I'm trying not to jinx it. Like, I'm so like, whatever. And I remember like, I took the subway. I did, because I thought it would be faster than taking a cab. And I was just like, in my head, I was totally just like, wow, like this is crazy. Like, I was like, this is a big like moment in your life, Karina, you better remember this. And of course it turned into an even bigger thing or whatever. So then I show up, go to catering with Mike and his wife, Sue, also. Both Trey and
I love that
Mike's.
there are multiple band wives named Sue.
Two wives named Sue. What are you gonna do? And they're both lovely. And we're just chatting in catering, having I've literally not eaten anything, just 2 shots of espresso at this point. It's a great way to go about it. And and then Mike's like, all right, you want to go check it out? I'm like, yes, let's go check it out. So then it's me and then Mike, his bass tech. So lots of Sues, lots of Mikes. And we're just, he puts the modulus on me and he's like, and, just showing me this crazy array of toys and what they do. And I'm just like, oh, wow. And the thing that I've taken away, like among everything, but like one, a big thing is that he can do so many things that he never does. He has the restraint of a god. And I'm just like, he was making like just like, I don't know, arpeggiated bird calls that sound like they like EQ'd, like I can't even describe what the crazy shit he has under his fingertips that he could be doing.
We need the band to do updated rig rundown videos, because the ones that are on YouTube right now are from like 2012 and they're outdated for all 4 of them.
So outdated. Oh my God. Well, he also, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he's going to do a rig rundown where he explains this, but he literally has a pedal that tracks his daughter, Tessa, in the arena. And so like he gives Tessa like a little like remote or like a little sensor or something like that, so that wherever she is in the arena, it'll tell him like stage left, like dead center, stage right, whatever, so he can wave to her when she hits the button.
That's awesome.
And that's so cool. It's like the coolest thing ever. Right? Isn't that great? And then we're going through the pedals and my mind is blown, obviously. And he has the stuff on the floor as well as the stuff on the rack.
Yeah.
Right. So we're kind of about to move to the rack, but then like out of nowhere, but it makes sense. It's about to sound check, whatever. Trey walks up and he's like, Karina? And I'm like, Trey. And he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, Mike invited me to check out his rig. And then he's like, yes, I have been meaning to show her the rig for quite some time. And Trey's like, oh, that's awesome. And then he goes over to Mike's rack, and I still have the modulus on me because it's all happening in hyper speed in my brain. Yeah. My brain is just like completely destroyed at this point. But like he goes over the rack, and like says, hey, Zach Bella's boyfriend, of course. And I'm like, yeah, of course. He's like, I got him this pedal for his birthday. Check this out. And he like hits it with his hand, and I have the bass on me, and it's like this sweet distortion fuzz, like right up my alley, basically. Like the stuff that you're saying that like is my shit. Like, yeah, it's my shit. So I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And I start to riff around for like 2 seconds. Trey's eyes light up like a little kid, like the way
as we all can see that he is. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he just like lights up and runs over to his guitar, picks it up. Next thing I know, Fishman on like beat 1 is just like
he appears
right there. Yeah. And I'm like, oh shit. And I set like it was an A, I remember. And like, I'm just riffing around an A, and they're following me. And then like, and I was just like, holy shit, this is so crazy. And then the next thing you know, like, I don't know, 25 seconds later, you just hear Paige on the organ. Like he appeared out of nowhere. It was just like, I'm being descended upon by my favorite band at the world's most famous arena. It was the most surreal, like 4 minutes and 50 seconds of my life. Like it was so crazy.
That is awesome.
And Mike was filming it. So like Mike is standing there filming on his phone, me filling his role in the band. And anyway, you can only imagine my brain is split into a million directions. I still haven't recovered, obviously.
I don't think you ever will. Like that's something that you don't recover from. That's the pinnacle of everything right there. Like
right there. And then I was like, okay, like, better let these guys sound check. So I like give the bass back to Mike, and then I run over to Trey's side of the stage, give him a big hug. And he just goes, I've been meaning to do that with you forever. And I'm just like, yeah, me too. And I freak out, like, and then I wave goodbye to everybody. I walk off the stage, and then I'm just like, backstage at the Garden, and all the guys who do video that I'm friends with at this point, or like just the people who work behind the scenes there, who I've seen obviously and gone to know through 10 years of seeing the band at that point. And they're all just like, dude. And I'm like, dude.
Yeah.
And then the next people are like, dude. And I'm like, what is happening? And I'm just like on cloud 9. I swear I'm walking into walls. Like I literally walked into a telephone pole on my way home. And
so what did you say when you walked back into your apartment? Was everyone still asleep?
Well, that's a great question, Ryan. That was the best scene of all time. Was Mike very promptly sent me the video, which God bless him, because I don't know how I would have how do you even explain that before you have the video proof, right? Nobody would have believed me. It would have been a nightmare. Anyway, thank God I have the video. So I was walking down 7th Avenue back to my apartment and like called my mom and was like, Ma, I just sound checked with Phish. And she's just like, wait, what? And then I hear my dad in the background. She's like, Pa, which is what I call my father. Karina just sound checked with Phish. And you hear him go, holy shit. Anyway, and then I call my boyfriend. I call like a few people when I'm walking like the 12 blocks back. But then, I show up at my crib. 3 friends are there, and I say nothing. And I just go, guys,
look at this.
Guys, just sit down. And I turn on the TV and I like airplay the video to the flat screen in big, which is obviously my first time seeing it in big too, and they're like, when I'm getting it queued up, they're like not enthused, but they just don't know what's happening, obviously. And then I play it and they're like, oh my God, this just, what? Like they're literally like, everybody lost it. And it was the craziest thing. And then we had even more friends like coming to our house before the show, you know? So it was just like this long, extended, drawn out, like, guys, I'm not going to say anything, but just have a seat. And I just kept replaying the video all night until we went to the fucking show. And then,
what a show that was.
What a show that was.
That 12:30:18 is one of my favorite Phish shows of all time. Just,
oh my God.
It's so
good. Ridiculous. No, I mean that whole
I think
thing.
it's the only show that I've done so far. This will be episode 12. I think that's the only show where I've had where I've picked 2 jams from it. So far I've done the
really?
the Split Open and Melt and the Weekapog.
That's amazing. Those were that was an amazing show, and that was my 101st show, I believe.
And the 29th was your 100th?
The 29th was my 100th show. Yes. Oh. So like,
and you
that's
got a Carini.
Like, you know, exactly, and a Karina.
It all ties back in. There we go.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and every time, like, you know, and then a million people texted me. And then that was another, like, Trey he was like, yeah, you know, it's, yeah, I never know if he's joking, but like he says that they do that for me. Or like that was the second time. Second from 10-29-10, where you get a Carini and a Karina in the same set, at least when I've been there, you know, and a million people texting me being like, it's for you, happy 100. I'm like, holy shit, what is happening? So in terms of like the Phish gods or whatever you believe in, you know, everybody, you know, better than anybody, like, you know, people who are just like, if it wasn't for this, I would have never met my wife, or like, if it wasn't for this jam, like this never would have happened in my life, or like, I don't know, everybody has like some cosmic Phish story that changed their life, right? Yeah. Something about this band.
Yeah, but we've got, you know, my dad, my brother, and I are a Phish cover band now because of this band. Like it's
amazing.
Great. Yeah,
exactly. Like there's something about the intangible, weird glory of what these guys do. And you know, the fact that, you know, you go see this band, you know, audience and band alike, kind of trying to see something they've never seen before and that'll never be repeated, right? And like, they try to create something that is once in a lifetime. You know, it's just like this lightning in a bottle thing that's so spectacular, and like obviously has led to so many people trying to, like, you know, it's like a deck of Pokemon cards or whatever, a pack, you know, you never know what you're going to get. So it keeps you coming back and it keeps you hooked. And then, you know, next thing you know, you turn into, you know, one of us who's obsessed. Like,
and it's the best. And I was talking about this on the last episode where they had joked, I forget when, but I think Trey, I think it was in one of his SiriusXM interviews, but Trey joked about how they wanted to do like the Groundhog Day tour, where every show is exactly the same and verbatim banter, and there would still be something new about it, and it would still be an incredible experience to be at any one of those shows, even if it's a carbon copy of the last one, because realistically the jams would be different. But if they do like the same set list and the same banter, that would be hilarious. But, you know, one night the tweezer might be 10 minutes, one night the tweezer might be 20. It just happens. And it's that's the best thing.
Who's to say?
Exactly. I am curious. Did getting into Phish, because I'm assuming you weren't into the Dead before you were introduced to Phish. But was there a time?
Not the way I am now. Correct.
Yeah. So was there a time when you were younger where it was like, oh, like I should listen to the Grateful Dead too, or did it just kind of happen?
It was basically like the Phish fascination definitely, like, I mean, I knew about the Grateful Dead when I was like a young person getting into just like, you know, the
music.
I was a fiend for music and rock and roll and just like, you know, all the decades of glory that came before me, you know, and I was kind of like a savant trying to piece together as much of all that stuff as I could. And like, obviously, the iconography of the Dead, I knew what a Steal Your Face was. I knew about the Dancing Bears, and like people would tell me, oh, you got to listen to American Beauty. Like that's a classic record. And at the time I listened to that, and I think it just like lacked I want to say like at the time I was really into like this, like, you know, music that was almost virtuosic, or you know what I mean? Like those are beautiful American songs, but like it wasn't until like I heard Slipknot and like Estimated Prophet and a lot of the Blues for Allah stuff and like you know, Let It Grow, like all that stuff that really grabbed me. And that wasn't until like, you know, that summer 2009 was huge for me when I like really was digging into Phish and whatnot. And then I started to kind of go beyond my kind of surface level knowledge of and appreciation of the Dead and became way more entrenched in it in terms of like loving it, playing it. And then next thing you know, like me and all my friends, like, you know, of course, we're just a bunch of jammy kids playing, you know, St. Stephen on a Tuesday, like doing it, you know, and then of course, like got really into that. And then, I mean, it was the Allman Brothers Band for me that I became sickly obsessed with when Phish was not on tour, because they played the Beacon Theater 10 nights in a row every March.
You have the New York advantage.
I've big time. So absolutely. I made it my business to be at every one of those shows, you know.
That's awesome.
From the years 2010 through whenever it ended,
2014, yeah.
Yeah, totally. So that was big.
That's awesome. For me, I was into the Dead before Phish, because, you know, when I was really little, my dad would play the Dead more than he would play Phish around the house. So when I was like, you know, 5 or 6 years old, I was like, the Europe 72 box set was like my favorite album. I brought it on the bus to day camp. We were supposed to bring our favorite CDs, and I brought that, which was not what everyone else was listening to. And then I kind of stopped listening to the Dead a lot. As I got older, I went through a very brief pop hits phase. It was like maybe a year, and then Phish rescued me from that. And then I got into Phish when I was like just before my 11th birthday, I think. And then, you know, I got back into the Dead kind of slowly over the past few years, because there was a period like middle school and high school where I listened to nothing but Phish, like nothing else, which was kind of problematic. And, you know, like there was a time where I would only listen, like I think it was in grade 11 where I was basically listening to exclusively like a set of like 10 Phish shows I had from like 2011 to 2016. And that was like it. That was all I would listen to.
Man.
And so I've
was it.
Yeah, over the last few years, I've gotten a lot better at, you know, expanding into other avenues, and I've gotten a lot farther into the Dead now and stuff. But it's, you know, Phish will always be my one true love in music. It's
I mean, it's a testament to the band, right? Like that's what other, I mean, I know people have their various tastes, and I'm sure, you know, a lot of people have their Phish, whatever it is, you know, but like this band, like we're saying, like they leave so much room for, you know, the audience's exploration into the folklore and the, you know, just like going so deep like you did as a middle and high schooler, like I have done as a high schooler too. And I've, you know, admittedly like totally had tunnel vision for the band at certain moments of my life. But, you know, I think I'm super eclectic in terms of like my taste and stuff, and have continued that, but as are they, you know, it's like,
exactly. Listening to some of the stuff on like the Errant Path, or when Trey has done those DJ sets on Phish Radio, is just like, huge. Like I turned it on once and I think it was like Gucci Mane was playing, and that was like Trey's pick, and it's just, I was just like, wait, sick. Like what? So
Gucci Mane's on
on Phish Radio, like no,
it's
crazy.
It's a beautiful thing. I love it. I'm a huge fan of all of that, you know. It just feeds the glory and the breadth and the depth and the, you know, it's a band that's, you know, infinite in my eyes, you know.
Absolutely.
Like it's just they have that thing.
Well, and the fact that they're able to innovate so successfully so far into their career and constantly reinvent themselves in the way they play music, because, you know, coming back in 2009, they could have just coasted on the old hits and played like, you know, played all the old hits and just done what everyone knew from the 90s. But they were like, no, the whole point is that they don't want to become a nostalgia act. And I don't think that's ever going to happen with them, just because.
No, and they have that childlike creativity, like we were talking about, that just like they're pushing to keep innovating all the time, which is why it's such a, again, like your Carini pick is such a good one, because you see that pre-Casbot Vox thing, talk about what, you're not seeing the Eagles doing a Casbot Vox show. You know what I'm trying to say?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I use this example a lot, like bands like the Rolling Stones or the Eagles, they'll still write music now, but if they go on tour, people aren't gonna like get up and go hard on a song that they wrote 2 years ago. They're gonna, if you go see the Eagles, people are gonna get up and go crazy for Hotel California. And for the some of the Cast of Vax songs, watching the video of MSG going absolutely crazy during Say It To Me Santos, what band gets that kind of reaction out of the crowd of a song they wrote 35 years into their career? Nobody.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
The beauty of Phish.
And the beauty of Phish, and the beauty of Trey just as a human, and like we say, it's so inspiring to me as a musician, obviously all of them together, but Trey and Mike, in terms of just they are people who never will stop searching. They live for the craft. They're dedicated to the creative life, and the way they are is something that I find just, even if I wasn't as into the band as I am or whatever, but just that pure search for something and devotion to your artistry, and artistry as such, is something that I feel infinitely blessed to have been up close to in my lifetime,
No kidding.
And it's really something. It really is. So it's not lost on me. And whatever I do in this lifetime with my music, it wouldn't be the way it is without these guys and what they've shown me personally, and on and off the stage, and it's an amazing thing.
That is quite amazing. And I think that's the perfect place to wrap up the episode. I think, Karina, thank you so much for coming on today and talking about Carini and Karina, the song, and all your experiences with the band. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Oh, so mutual. No, seriously, what a delight. What a delight. Thank you for having me and letting me ramble on, if you will.
My pleasure.
So good. So much fun.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of We Move Through Stormy Weather. Hope you have a fantastic day, and we'll see you next time.